Welcome. You're listening to the Telco podcast series sponsored by Vitria Technology. Today's topic, how to operationalize artificial intelligence and machine learning at massive scale to improve operational efficiency. We're delighted to have as today's guest, Randy Burke, a veteran telco executive with stints at Charter, Comcast, and AT&T. Joining the call is Dale Skeen, CTO and co-founder at Vitria Technology, and the session is moderated by Charlotte Patrick, telco industry analyst and thought leader in the space. Turning it over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deborah. Hi there. Dale, Randy, thank you so much for your time today. Very much appreciated. I'd like to start off, Randy, with tapping some of your intelligence and experience around AIOps. So my first question is AIOps more important to a telco than it is for other industries?
Actually, Charlotte, I'd say it's critical for just about every industry, but perhaps even more critical for the telco industry or service provider industry because of the complexity of providing services. I mean, just think about the recent storms that we've had that kind of rippled their way through the Southeast and what's required to actually support a service ranging from the last mile to the metro networks, to the backbone networks, to the applications, to cloud, native cloud, public cloud, to actually put a service together. We're talking hundreds of touch points. So thinking in terms of real time, the only way that you can understand how is the service performing and who is impacted and all the outbound communication that's required is to layer in some type of AI ML platform on top of that.
Yeah, I certainly know. I've been tracking the space for a long time, and I just know how difficult it is. What, in your experience, do you find is kind of holding companies back? What are the most difficult barriers that you've had to get over?
Yeah, I think there's probably two things or three things that may jump out. Yeah, I think often, folks think that the underlying technology, that's from an AI or ML perspective, isn't ready for prime time. I think, a lot of that is now in the rear view mirror. So the growing belief set is the technology is now ready. So that's one of the large areas. The other area that probably holds folks back is using a domain-based approach. The beauty of an AI ops, when correctly implemented, is you stretch across both the application world, the cloud world, the network world, the service world, and often those are managed by different domains. So when you try to put a tool in or a platform in to drive transformation on a specific domain, it becomes very limiting. You don't realize the value. So too narrow of an approach often comes into play. And the other one is, I think historically, tools, there's kind of a graveyard of tools, right? There's a tool graveyard that exists in just about every company, where things haven't gone well in the past. And there's a belief set that results need to be measured in years, not in days. So those would really be the three broadest areas. Now, and the good news, right? So there's a good news side to it also. I think I've always had the conversation of never seen a PowerPoint file said that, it'll take too long to deliver. It's not going to work and it's going to be, way off feature set. So, on the complexity of the technology, prove it. Right. Yeah. So I always use the prove it approach. So let's run a trial with real live streaming data. Let's demonstrate that it worked. Let's demonstrate that it can be integrated. So that's an easy check mark of how you get through that. And the domain-based approach, one of probably the most important things is to pick a champion within the company that can extend across domains, has credibility across domains. And then a project or program has to have visibility at the EVP, CFO, CTO level to help cut through. Undoubtedly, there are going to be issues, right? So to help cut through those issues becomes important. And then the belief set of years for implementation, it has to be measured in sprints, right? So there is no reason that results aren't achieved in 30 days. I think we can talk about that a little bit more, but achieved in 30 days, and then you layer in additional results as you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to come back and ask you about some of those complexities in a bit, but what are the outcomes that you have seen through implementing these sorts of platforms? Can you give us some real world numbers?
Probably the numbers are less important than the themes. I'd say the themes become important, So if you look at your classic metrics and measurements, and these are always fun questions to ask others, how do you measure success? What are your key outcomes? And when folks come back with, hey, it's simply a mean time between repair, and my repair starts when I receive the issue and when I think I'm done with it. It's a very limited approach. So if you think about the broad metrics that can and should be achieved, every metric or outcome must be crossed organization, right? To drive the right behavior. The customer has to be the end in mind and must be crossed organization. So if you think about it, right, some of seemingly obvious, but very complex in the details, you need to be able to detect and correct or trigger the automated intelligence before the first customer realizes pain. Now, to do that, you're not talking about somebody told me about the issue. It's like, I need to understand the underlying anomalous behavior and then measure myself against the very first portal interaction or the very first customer call interaction. Do I have it resolved? In general, right, you can achieve greater than 80% of the time having that in place, which when you think about it, it's kind of truly remarkable when you look at all the underlying timings. And then you layer in on top of that is, how do I get outbound messaging in front of my care agents, in front of the engineers, in front of my customers before they realize they even have an impact? Those are the types of metrics that you should focus on and achieve and to detect and realize before the first customer call. But that says, hey, pain's already occurring, right? There's some level of pain I'm trying to beat, but that's your first metric. Your second metric becomes, how do I decrease the amount of customer felt pain? Translation, I got to eliminate it, right? Either you want to shorten it or you want to eliminate it. And the elimination, if you think about the number of outages or impacts that are caused by escape defects on maintenance, when you correctly implement an AI and ML tool, every single maintenance that you put into a network, whether it's software, whether it's network, you're gauging for success. So you never leave a maintenance window when there is an impact. And you embed that into your processes. There's no reason to ever leave a maintenance window unless you have some type of memory leak, before you are already taking action. And well more than 75% of the time. So broadly speaking, let's just say a significant number of the impacts are caused by maintenance. If you can eliminate those impacts, you made a major dent on the frequency. And then the other one is the dent that you made when it does slip out is, what's my restoration time? You should be able to achieve more than a 50% reduction in restoration time, and certainly more than a 75% reduction in escape defects. You have pretty easy targets, but those kind of metrics need to be in place. And oftentimes, folks think about the operational world. Well, the intent isn't just to operate better and to eliminate defects. You're trying to deliver innovation more quickly. So when you live in a world where you have a correctly implemented platform, you're actually able to deliver innovation at breakneck speed. I'm able to now soak it in a small area, understand the positive impact, and then rapidly deploy it across the entire company. So the soak rate or the soak technique, foundationally changes. And there's always the efficacy measurement, right? You have the efficacy key measurement. There's no reason that you're not driving more than a 20% improvement year over year on the efficacy side of the house.
I am looking for vendors or indeed telcos to talk about, the value they've seen. I guess another question, once the vendors have put down the PowerPoint that said they can do everything super quick and it's going to be fantastic, and you've actually got them into the operations, how long does it take to realize value? Is it incremental or is it more transformative in nature?
Yeah. There's always an interesting debate on that, right? So my argument is, don't go down the journey if you don't want to be transformative, right? Don't pass go if you don't want to be transformative. But the key is to layer in the transformation. So, what do I mean when I say that? You can't wait 18 months for perfection. You should see quantifiable, layered in transformative results every 30 days in a series of sprints. So, what I mean, let's give a specific example, right? Let's go back to some of the key metrics. If I'm looking at detect and basically trigger intelligent automation before the first customer is impacted, well, maybe I pick, voice, internet, video. I may pick wireless. I may pick a specific service to start with first. And then my federation type, right? It's critical that federation is supported. Maybe I pick my workflows. My first step is to trigger the messaging back into the care agents or triggering this level of automation. So the end result is transformative, but it's transformative along a path with results realized, quantifiable, measurable, customer impacting results every 30 days as you layer in additional systems, services, platform, components. But you have to move quickly. If you don't move quickly, you're just missing out on the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I change track slightly and ask you about your experience of working with vendors? But some secrets here would be great. What are the key requirements when you're thinking about choosing an AIOps product or a vendor? What are the key requirements you're looking for?
Yeah. I break that down into two different boxes because the vendor and the product can be they're distinctly different questions in my mind. So I'll try to frame it in two different ways. Because you can have a spectacular vendor, and the product isn't great, right? So yeah, I'll break those into two different areas and say at least what I would look for. And the first one, going back almost to one of your initial questions, is you've got to prove it. Again, I've never seen a bad PowerPoint file. I've never had anybody come to my office and tell me they were going to sorely disappoint me. They're going to cost way more than they projected. They're going to be feature poor and negligent in their work, right? Nobody ever says that. So they always go with the prove it approach. And the prove it approach looks like, now you're sitting on real streaming data. I'm going to put you on top of Kafka bus. I'm going to pit 3 or 4 vendors against each other because you want competition. And you want to prove it, that you can do a live trial, that you're using real data. You're handling the integrations. You're testing the outcomes. And you've only got 30 days, right? Let's go back to the theme of 30 days. 30 days from start to finish to have the trial results done and decision made. So that becomes, at least one of the bullets. The other one in this space is ease of ingest. So when you think about ease of ingest, it's a pretty simple topic, but you must have a broad library of formats and framings in which you can take different data sets and data types. You must be able to take it on a real-time basis. This isn't sitting on some data lake and doing it from a historical perspective. And I would argue almost the secret sauce is you have to handle data anomalies, right? Every time there's an outage, there's a spike, there's an ebb, there's a flow, there's missing data, there's timing sequences difference in your data. You have to be able to adjust for data inconsistencies. Otherwise, you're going to have challenges, right? You're just going to have challenges. So ease of ingest, cost-effective scale, right? When I say cost-effective scale, I mean that in a couple of areas. One is both on the compute and store side as well as the Kafka bus, because you need to sit on some type of bus technology. You don't want to sit in just some artificial area where you have length built into your data. You want to sit on some type of bus technology, so you have to be able to sit on top of the bus technology, and you want to do that effectively. You want to do that in a modularized approach, in a scalable approach. You can scale up and scale down, so you're minimizing the amount of compute and storage that you need. And then obviously your overall cost model has to be well thought out, so you're not limiting yourself if I don't want to go there because X costs too much. So cost-effective scale, you've got to be, and this one's an interesting debate in the industry, but it's a really simple debate from a customer perspective. You've got to be cloud-based, and you've got to be on-prem or off-prem. And the reason I say that, right, let's probably want to pick on any specific names. Let's assume sometimes it's quicker to start up in an off-prem approach, right? Just because I can spin that up even more quickly. There's a cost associated with it, but I can spin it up in an off-prem approach. But the reality to do this well, I'm sitting on customer data, network data, signaling data, cloud data. If I want to remain on a pure off-prem approach, I have to artificially move all my data into that vendor's platform. Then 50% of it naturally exists in my own network. I would much rather be resident within my network, not pay for pushing data to and from the off-prem approach. So in some cases, it makes a lot more sense to be on-prem, still cloud, but on-prem. There are a few cases where off-prem makes sense, but those are generally lighter weight and they're a little bit narrower use cases, at least in the back of my mind. Um, so, you got to be on-prem or off-prem. You got to be able to sit on a Kafka bus. The other one is hugely important. The days of a monolithic, my platform will do everything for everybody, run, right? Run from anybody who tells you that. Must be able to federate. So when you plug in an AI ML system, you shouldn't have to redo your other systems. You should be able to tap directly in and integrate into your workflow systems, tap into your scheduled maintenance systems, tap into your customer care systems. So you need to be able to federate within that environment and federate quickly. Obviously logical security, and then you got to have a core AI ML based platform that you can continue growing with. So I put them in two different categories. That's the platform side. Now the vendor side becomes a little bit more interesting. They have to have demonstrated ability to be on schedule, on cost, and on feature set, right? That's kind of foundational. The next is you got to have strong financials, right? You have to have strong financials, a going forward vision, an investment in an R&D perspective. So those pieces come together, and you must have a relentless shared approach on customer, right? And by the way, the customer, let's assume that pick your name, you're Randy's company. The customer's not Randy. The customer's the end customer. It's the person who's paying the bills for the service provider. So there has to be that shared relentless pursuit of customer. You got to be agile, right? I don't want my code releases every 5 months. I don't want to take the entire system down to do it. You got to have an agile based mentality, which generally means your code structure is good. Oh, side note, if you're agile and your code structure is good, you're probably not charging me for every one of those drops. It should be included. It should be easy, right? And you have to have an outcome-based mentality. So those are kind of the two categories, maybe a little bit too lengthy, but the two categories, how I break those out.
Oh, fantastic. Tough customer. So can I ask, I know that you and Vitria have had a long association. Why Vitria? Could you just give me a few bits of insight into that, please?
Go back to the checklist on platform, and then go back to the checklist on the vendor. Ease of ingest, check mark. Cost-effective scale, more so than frankly I realized, check mark. On-prem or off-prem cloud, have run it in both. Frankly, there's advantages. One has a little bit more speed, a little bit more cost, perhaps. The other one's a little bit closer to the data. Federate with systems, check mark. True AI ML platform, check mark. Logical security, check mark. So the core platform area, especially to prove it, there. So then from the vendor perspective is, hey, great partner. We talked about on cost, on feature. Don't surprise me, check mark. Strong financial investment going forward, check mark. Relentless pursuit of customer, theme here, check mark. So the check marks are in the boxes. And there's probably one more that I didn't mention when I think about it. Competition's good, right? No matter the environment you're in, competition is a good thing. So my goal is always, let's talk about AI ML. I'd love to create competition sitting on top of the bus. So if I've got an AI ML platform and it's sitting on the bus and I don't have to artificially push my data to vendor A or B that's off-prem, and then I'm kind of locked into them forever, right? So I never like being locked in. So when you use the methodology of, hey, let me sit on top of a bus. I don't care if I'm on-prem or off-prem, probably on-prem. I can move things around, and now I can bring competition into play, right? So that's probably another variable that kind of points me in a direction. Competition's a good thing.
That's interesting. Can I swap topics again and just ask you about some of the tough parts of getting AIOps to work for you? Obviously, large data sets, multi-vendor, multi-domain, multi-stack, up and down, such a huge data set. How was that for you? Could you give me some insight into your experience to date on that?
Yeah, maybe Dale can help me add some color to it. I don't want to oversimplify, but I can't think of a data set that can't be ingested, can't be consumed, that libraries don't exist now. So the size doesn't bother me. The type doesn't bother me. The secret sauce is what happens when you get a data storm? What happens when you have missing data? What happens when your data now is missing half of its components, right? How does the system adjust for that? How adept is it to picking out not anomalous behavior, but anomalies in the data? Because you may all of a sudden have, there's some buried SNMP poller, and SNMP poller is impacted by maintenance, and you've got missing data, or heck, it came back online, you just got stormed with 100x data. It's how does that become that noticeable from an AI ML platform? And that's not easy. I'd put the secret sauce area. And Dale, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think I tend to agree with you. I think getting the data on board is just it's mechanics. Like we have a set of integration tools that make that easy. We have prepackaged integrations, etc. I think the key thing is, what do you do with that data? Okay, and you talked about the anomalies that are in the data, not the anomalies that are in the system. So you have to build your system and your AI around detecting those anomalies and not throwing off alerts and alarms when those occur. So you look for missing values. You take baselines of data and frequencies of polling, and you see if those match what you see in the incoming data. And if there's a mismatch there, indicates the problem is the data, not the systems. So you build all these safeguards into the system. Some are traditional, some are driven by AI.
Oh, interesting. And please, clarification question. How important and what are the differences between observability and AIOps?
Now that's kind of a softball. Yeah, I might frustrate companies who only do observability, but here it goes, right? I might frustrate Dale also. A correctly implemented AI ops system, you get observability for free. You get common pane of glass for free, right? So a correctly implemented AI ops system is actually looking across the ecosystem. It's not only giving you the view of what's going on, kind of observability, end-to-end ecosystem, common pane of glass, probably an overused term, a little bit narrower approach. But when you correctly implement an AI ML system, and specifically AI ops, as a byproduct, you get observability. Now, what you get on top of that, right? So I always argue, don't buy an observability system. Go after AI ML, buy a platform, get the two for free, and now I'm getting my intelligent actioning. I'm getting my detect anomalous behavior across domains. Now I'm having fun. The other stuff, kind of get that, nothing's truly for free, but it comes as a byproduct, whereas the corollary doesn't exist. A great observability system, and there are some, you don't get all the benefits of an AIOps system. With a good AIOps system, you get all the benefits of observability and a common data glass.
So Dale, you mentioned your system can scale to kind of massive. Does that mean for a smaller sized company, we're needing only a simple use case that is observability, that there's no benefit from using VIA?
First, I must say that we built this system to both scale up and scale down. We have engineered it to be elastic with an elastic architecture that's efficient and cost effective at any scale. Okay, more to the point, why buy more than observability? I think with even if observability is your first step in your journey into perhaps what eventually will be automation, then it's important to be able to work with a vendor that can take you to the next step. Because with observability, you can see what the problem is. With AI ops, you can you deliver the insight to be able to act properly on those, on what's happening, what you see, and even to automate that. So if you want to continue that journey, you need an AI ops platform, not an observability platform. And so even if you think you don't want to take that journey, I would also say that the benefit you get from AI ops is that you not only see the problems, you also get the advantage of the AI ops insights. That means you get AI-based correlation. you get causality, and you get the likely fix. And that comes with observability in an AIOps platform. And that is what you don't get in an observability platform.
Can I round up our discussion today with a couple of questions about expectations for the future? I know that AIOps and service orchestration are a hot topic at the moment, and their relationships, especially in order to provide end-to-end automations. Dale, can I ask you, what are your expectations around AIOps and service orchestration?
Well, I think, first of all, if you look at AIOps, I think AIOps needs to be able to automate and orchestrate, okay? It needs to be able to do that because if it's a simple fix, why not just have the AIOps system automate it? And the other thing is because when AIOps platform detects an anomaly or incident, then there may be requirements for pre and post remediation actions. That, for example, upon first detection, you may notify customer care ops. You may want to set IVR deflections, and you may want to give fixed teams a head up. And that is typically not in the province of service orchestration providers today. As well as when the incident is closed, you need to undo those activities and make sure it's closed out properly. And typically the AIOps system knows who's been notified and how to close that out. So AIOps needs orchestration itself. But if you go back to Randy's point of federation, there are service orchestration systems that are provided by vendors, by third parties that can orchestrate the complete remediation of the problem. And so you need to be able to integrate with those and provide that as a capability as well. So to go back to your model, there will be different responsibilities for the different systems, but you'll see an overlap in the need to do orchestration, perhaps for different activities, but because they have different, essentially, point of views of what's going on.
So, a really, really big question. What is the future here? We've got these next generation AI and ML models. What about the legacy platforms, the Netcools, the Spectrums, the Primes? What's going to happen to them? Very important. Are we going to be left with them as well? Because we all like a bit of technical debt. What are your expectations, Randy?
Yeah, good question. I guess I would never start the journey of transformation because I was going to deprecate a system, right? That's not the reason to start the journey. The reason to start the journey is to foundationally change customer experience. But a byproduct, right? Once I'm up, running, operational, there's some interesting byproducts. There are systems that can obviously be deprecated, right? If it's a classic monitoring system, if it's a classic observability system, easy systems to be deprecated, probably paid for already, but you take your OpEx stream out. Heck, there's a few of them becoming manufactured discontinued, so it may accelerate some of that. So there are some very, very easy targets that you can deprecate. With the easiest ones obviously being anything that fits in the monitoring, observability, single pane of glass. Those are easy to take, or easy targets. There are others, right, that have a key integration point, right? If you think through, let's go through like NetScout, great probing system, essential data. Blue Planet, probably one of the best inventory management systems. Love to plug that data into the AI ops system because they become key data points. So there's some that become key integration points, key data points, workflow systems, right? Your probes, your inventory management, your workflow systems, you plug into those. Those that have duplicate functionality, those become easy targets that you kind of have a slam dunk on your efficacy side of the equation, and year two as you remove those systems.
Interesting. So basically, if it's doing something useful and it cannot be replicated, it stays. Otherwise, it might be a target. Fine. Fine. No discussion these days would be complete without a question about Gen AI. So one that I'd like to ask would be what role is Gen AI going to play in AIOps, both now and in the future?
Well, I think this is a question that deserves its own podcast. It's so big. But I'll start with a few examples. I think one big role it's playing today is this notion of chat ops, and which at its core, it allows users to interact with the AIOps systems in natural language. And so natural language, then this ability then opens the AIOps insights open to a wide variety of audiences, including fixed agents, care ops, maintenance crews, executive, so forth. And so AIOps, well, Gen AI specifically in AIOps in this capacity is really democratizing the access to AIOps insights. And that's very important. And we're building tools that allow that. That's persona-based. So it's based on the user community that's essentially talking to. More details to fixed agents, less to care agents, for example. The second example, which I think is an excellent example, is that concerning likely fix. Everyone who runs a complex IT environment usually has treasure troves of knowledge locked away. Okay, one of those repositories is in their trouble tickets, and in particular, the completed trouble tickets. They have the notation, the resolutions of what really fixed the problems there. Okay, if we can mine those, and Gen AI can, because it's semi-structured or natural language comments, by mining that information, we can go back and use that insight to get better, to make better fixed recommendations. And that's exactly what we're doing with our tool. We're using Gen AI to actually read the repositories, the trouble tickets, and then when the next incident happens, to match that against the historical tickets to see what's the most likely, to see what's the closest symptoms and closest incidents to the current incident, and make the likely fix based on what historically has worked. So the likely fix recommendation, I think, is actually one of the biggest contributors to value, because it really increases the accuracy of those predictions. Okay. But again, there's a whole slew of other opportunities to use Gen AI to parse unstructured data, extract device and host names from blogs and text fields, discovering hidden dependencies between layers of technology stacks, synthetic data generation for testing things. Very important when you're about to put in a new configuration or put in a new data stream to make sure it's not going to break the old. So all of these are excellent examples where Gen AI can pitch in and help.
No, that's interesting. And I know that you do have some live, and do you have anything to share in terms of the results that you're seeing?
Well, the results are very promising. What we're seeing is double-digit improvement in the accuracy of the likely fix, and we think that will just go up, because as the fixes get better, the historical data records better fixes, which then improves the recommendations themselves. So it's a virtual cycle there that's doing that. And so that has been very encouraging there.
Oh, excellent news. No, that's great. Well, thank you both so much today. That has been really, really interesting. I guess I've taken away a few points. First of all, if I'm looking to implement some new AI ops, I need both observability and anomaly detection. Why would I just get one when I can have both? I've learned that I need to go in sprints and get things, new stuff delivered every 30 days. I know now that there's something about the flexibility, the ability cloud often off-prem, on-prem, and so forth. That's a necessity. And also that if I'm going to have AI and ML, it needs to be on a bus. I don't want to be locked in to one particular vendor. And of course, any vendor I take on board, it's got to be they've got to deliver on cost, on feature, and and that's just a non-negotiable. So thank you again. I really appreciate. And back to Deborah.
Thank you for joining today's call. All things Vitria can be located at vitria.com. See the resource tab on the nav bar for more information.